Okay, so at this point, we've got some information about our niche. We have talked about Hedgehog, we've talked about Core Focus, we've talked about the house model, and that's hopefully has narrowed us down to a general vague idea of what our core purpose is and what our broad topic area is. And then we talked about the target audience, which hopefully, if you've done the exercises, will have really helped narrow down exactly what problems we are trying to solve. Now that we have a rough topic area and a rough target audience, what we want to do in this lesson is understand the market, understand our arena. And this comes back to our point earlier that being a creatorpreneur, being a creator, being a part-time creator, all that kind of stuff, and being successful at it today does rely on you standing out in a crowded market. And so in the next lesson, we're going to talk about how we stand out in the crowded market. But in this lesson, we're talking about how to actually identify what that crowded market actually is. And there's a classic methodology that businesses use to identify their market, understand their arena. And that was invented in 1965 by 4 dudes from Harvard Business School. And they published a textbook called Business Policy, Text and Cases. And this was like the first recorded use of this method. They didn't give it a method, but loads of people came to call this the SWOT analysis method. So this is basically how the SWOT analysis works. It's like a table that looks something like this. We have helpful things for the brand. We have harmful things for the brand. And we have internal origin things for the brand. And we have external origin things for the brand. So in the helpful and internal thing, these are your brand's strengths. What are they internally helpful, good at? These are their strengths. In the harmful camp, we have their weaknesses. What are the internal characteristics of the brand or of the creator that are potentially bad, potentially harmful? In helpful and external, we have opportunities. What are the helpful opportunities that they could potentially take advantage of? And then in the harmful externalities, we've got threats. What are the threats that could be a risk to their business or to their brand? And so with S, W, O, and T, we call this the SWOT analysis framework. And this is how businesses kind of at a first approximation, at a first glance, evaluate themselves and one another. But it's also what we can do in the creator economy to evaluate ourselves and the other creators in our market. In the area down below, we've got what the SWOT analysis for a brand like Coca-Cola would have looked like when they did it. I'm not going to go through it because it's not directly relevant to us as creators, but I'm going to show you what the SWOT analysis looks like for the Ali Abdaal brand so you can get an idea of what it might look like for you. So if we go through our strengths, we have a large audience, we have good revenues, we have manpower in the form of the team, we have reasonable brand recognition in the sort of productivity and personal development space, and we have specialized knowledge of YouTube within me and within our team members. And then in the weaknesses category, just a few weaknesses to name. Firstly, our podcast is not very niched. It does not have a clear concept behind it, and so it's a struggle to grow the podcast. Secondly, we have a very large team, which means potentially we are less agile as a result of it. And thirdly, we are very dependent on a single key person of influence, to use Daniel Priestley's terminology, and that is me. And so if something bad happens to me, that is a real problem for the whole business, because then the whole business basically collapses because it's all reliant on me. So these are some of our strengths and some of our weaknesses. In terms of our opportunities, we've got the opportunity to expand into new and emerging fields like Web3 and crypto in terms of educational content, or we can start branching out into areas like health, fitness, and relationships, which are all part of this ultimate vision of like helping people live their best life. And health, fitness, and relationships are 3 things that I am becoming more and more interested in as I get older. Whereas sort of my life pre-age 27 was more about like productivity and making money and making businesses. My life post this point is still around those things, but now I'm starting to take health, fitness, and relationships a lot more seriously as well. So opportunity for expanding out into those different niches. And secondly, we've got room for more courses and for more digital products. We have an audience that has shown willingness to pay. I know that I'm a pretty reasonable teacher, and that's the thing that I enjoy doing. And so creating courses is a really nice hedgehoggy concepty way of monetizing our audience in a way that hopefully provides value as well. And finally, just a few threats that we can talk about. Number 1, that our warm audience for our courses like our Part-Time YouTuber Academy is decreasing over time. Secondly, there is a significant external risk of getting canceled if I say the wrong thing in the current day and age. Thirdly, there is an external risk to the business that the YouTube algorithm might significantly change. And fourthly, there is a significant risk to the business, or a minor risk to the business, that trends will change over time. And so we have to be able to adapt to those trends as they change. Okay, so in the worksheet and the Notion template that we're going to give you, we've got the SWOT analysis template, so you can do the SWOT analysis for yourself. But what's actually most helpful about this lesson is not necessarily doing it for yourself, but it's doing it for the other competitors in your market. And Conveniently, we have a 5-part framework that you can follow, which is also in the template and in the worksheet, that you can use to get an idea of what is in your market and really understand the arena that you are competing in. Firstly, before we go into it, I don't really like thinking of it in terms of competition. I think one of the really nice things about the creator economy is that, the other people in our arena, like in my case, the other sort of personal development, productivity, YouTubers, Thomas Frank, Matt Duvellas, the Joey Schweitzers, Better Ideas, Nathaniel Drews, the people like that, we're not really competitors. Yes, we're competitors in a traditional sense, but it's more, I consider ourselves more like colleagues. And the really nice thing about YouTube in particular is that the rising tide does lift all the boats. If I have a video that really pops off, then one of Matt's videos or Thomas's videos might be suggested in the suggested videos list, and vice versa. And so generally the people that follow one of us are more likely to follow more than one of us, rather than thinking of it as, if I go to this cinema, I'm not then going to the other cinemas in my neighborhood. But just to keep things simple and to kind of stay consistent with the business terminology that we're trying to explain here, we're going to refer to all of this as the competitor analysis. So let's analyze our competitors, analyze our colleagues, see what they're doing well, see what their own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are. And then in the next lesson, we'll talk about how we can stand out in the crowded space by finding our own competitive edge. And conveniently, we've got a 5-step process that's in the worksheet and in the template down below as well that you can use to identify and understand your arena. So step 1 of that process is to identify who our competitors actually are. And the easiest way of doing this is to just get really, really familiar with your niche. Like if you're thinking of taking YouTube seriously, if you're getting smart about it, you should be spending large amounts of time on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or whatever your platform is, really understanding the space that you are competing in, really getting a feel for who are the big names in the space, who are the smaller names in the space, who are the up and coming names in the space. If you want an easy way to get started, just search YouTube. Let's say I'm a cooking channel teaching people how to cook healthy recipes for less than $1 a day or something like that. I could just search for that kind of stuff on YouTube and I'll stumble across a bunch of channels, and then I can keep track of what these channels are, analyze them, see what they're doing, and really spend a large amount of time watching their content as well to really get a feel for what is going on in the space. It is so hard to compete effectively in a market when you don't understand what that market is. And we always have so many students in our YouTuber Academy, and this truly breaks my heart, although that's probably a bit melodramatic. It truly breaks my heart to see that there's a lot of people that think they can succeed on YouTube without spending any time actually watching YouTube. We have people who are like, oh, I really want to do my YouTube channel so that I can teach other people how to grow their businesses. I'm like, okay, what other channels have you looked at in the space that are doing well? And they're like, oh, I don't really watch YouTube. I just kind of want to do my own thing. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But that's like a film director saying they don't watch movies, or like an author saying they don't read books. It's just like, yes, you can do that, but it's like, why wouldn't you spend time consuming the content that you are hoping to create? It just gives you more empathy in the minds of the audience's eyes. And it also gives you a lot more of an idea as to what's going on in your market. So step 1 was identify your competitors. Then step 2 is understand their strengths and weaknesses. And again, this is all part of that template that we're going to give you. But basically, we want to be figuring out what are the sorts of content types that they're making, what are the sort of content types that are doing well for them, and what are the content types that are not doing so well for them. And you can base that on view counts or on comments or engagement or whatever the relevant metric is for you. Secondly, what do you personally like about their content? What are the nice bits of it that stand out? And what do you personally dislike about their content? What are the things that you would do differently if you were copying their channel? Thirdly, we want to be figuring out what are the elements of their channels, on their content, that we can steal. Austin Kleon has a fantastic book as his 3-part series, Steal Like an Artist, Show Your Work and Keep Going. Steal Like an Artist became a New York Times bestseller. Very, very good. But as I readjust these, why not? Steal Like an Artist. It's all about stealing like an artist. He says, good artists copy, great artists steal. There's no such thing as originality. Originality is just undetected plagiarism. And what I'm not saying is go after copy your favorite YouTuber word for word. What I'm saying is understand your arena and figure out which different elements of the top 10, 15, 20 creators in the space, which of those elements you want to steal from each of them, because then you can form your own personal style, your own personal vibe based on elements you can steal from other people. So it might be the way they do their lighting. It might be the way they set up the shots. It might be the way they have these handwritten diagrams and things like that in their videos. It might be the way that they speak. When I started YouTube, I was trying to copy Peter McKinnon, this photography, videography YouTuber. And weirdly, my failure to copy Peter McKinnon in terms of style resulted in my own personal style. And in fact, this is a hoodie from Cuts, which is a hoodie that he first wore in one of his videos. I was like, that's a really cool hoodie. And I went out and bought the hoodie. I also wear his black skinny jeans. But my failure to be Peter McKinnon has resulted in my own unique style. And no one probably knows, unless I tell them, that I'm trying to copy Peter McKinnon, or that when I started my YouTube channel and started taking it seriously, I had in my mind the idea that I wanted to be the Peter McKinnon of medical school. Similarly, while looking at other channels, you can also figure out things that they do badly or differently, or things that you don't personally like. So for example, there are some creators in my space that are like, my space, lol. There are some creators in my arena, my genre, that are a bit too scripted in terms of their content. And it works for them and it's fantastic for them, but I prefer a little bit more loose kind of vibe where I've got the freedom to riff off of bullet points. So I don't really like being very, very scripted myself. So step 1 was identify your competitors. Step 2 was understand their strengths and weaknesses. And step 3 is map their journey. Now, basically here, we want to understand what was the journey that each of these creators, these top 10, 20 creators in our space, what was their journey from beginning to right now? When did they start their YouTube channels? How long did it take to grow? What was their growth trajectory? Did they have any viral videos? What were their first few videos about? How did they change their content strategy over time? There's a website called Social Blade where you can use to find stats of all your favorite creators over time, and you can see when they really started to take off. You can reverse engineer from that. You can figure out, okay, what was the videos that really caused their channel to go viral, or their Instagram page to go viral, or whatever. Once you've mapped their journey, step number 4 is to analyze their presence overall. So generally, if a creator is successful on one platform, they might also have accounts on other platforms. I'm doing pretty well on YouTube, but we're doing okay on Instagram and on Twitter and on newsletter and on podcast as well. And so if someone's trying to compete in the space that I'm in, personal development, living your best life kind of stuff, it's really helpful for them to really understand what are the areas in which Ali Abdaal as a creator is doing well. For me, I know very well, like exactly what Matt D'Avella, Thomas Frank, Nathaniel Drew, I know exactly what these people are doing well and what their presence on different platforms is like. And I just have that information in the back of my mind. Again, I'm not thinking of it as a competition, but I am thinking of it as like, let's just see what these guys are doing, just so I can understand where my own stuff fits into this. And really one of the points I want to drive home in the next session, which I'll just say now, is that we're not trying to be better than our competitors, which is very much a business thing. In a way, we're just trying to be different. Because the really nice thing about the creator economy is that you can succeed without necessarily being better, but instead by being different. Because really, there's such a long tail. There is content out there for everyone. Some people might vibe with the way I explain something, or might not. Like some people might absolutely hate the way I explain something and think that I'm a complete twat. That's okay. There are plenty other creators for them to follow. It's not really a competition. We're not really competing for the same people. Therefore, it's not really about, I want to be better than my competitors. It's more like, let's understand what they're doing so I can figure out where's my own path in this somewhat crowded space. And finally, step number 5 in a 5-part method is to study their products and services. Let's figure out how they're making money. We're trying to do this creator thing as a business at the end of the day. This is the part-time creatorpreneur course, and being a creatorpreneur is about making money. So part of identifying a market requires knowing what our competitors, collaborators, colleagues, whatever you want to call them, what our friends are doing to make money. I know that Thomas Frank has an ebook. I know he sells it completely for free on like a digital copy on Amazon. I know he sells a print version on Amazon for about $8. I know roughly how much money he's making from that. I know Matt D'Avella has his Slow Growth Academy, his Master YouTube course, his Simple Habits course. I know he's got a Patreon that's doing reasonably well. I know what kind of rough sponsors he's got on his channel. I can kind of guess, even though I don't know for certain, what his sponsorship rates are. Like, I know these details of all of the other people in my area whom I'm kind of in the same space as. And so while you're doing your competitor analysis, you want to really understand what are the effective and less effective monetization strategies that these different creators in your space are using. So that was a bunch of theory on how to do this stuff. And now I'm going to show you a little screen recording and I'll show you the template we've got about how you can put this into practice. And the way we did it is that when we were launching our Part-Time Creator Academy channel, we did competitor analysis for about 10 different channels that are all in that general space of helping creators grow. And conveniently, I got various members of the team to do this, so I didn't have to do it myself, but just sort of gave them some loose instructions. And through all the information that we got through that, we managed to put together this template of the things that we did, because this is literally what has shaped our strategy for this Part-Time Creator Academy channel, because we are taking it seriously from day one. I'll be honest, I didn't do this stuff explicitly with my own channel because I only found out about this whole businessy world over the last 2 years through building a team. I kind of wish I had done it, but at the same time, I did also have in my mind an idea of what the other competitors in the space were doing. So even though I didn't have it written down explicitly, I'd spent enough time on YouTube watching content in the space to really have a very clear idea of where I was trying to hopefully stand out in this crowded market. And so here's the template that we're going to give you for this. This is the competitor analysis template, and I'm going to use my friends Colin and Samir as an example of competitors. Again, they're in a different space to the Part-Time Creator Academy, but we considered them competitors anyway because they are broadly in this kind of creator economy niche. So in the template, we're going to be asking strengths, weaknesses, strategy, growth analysis. What's their marketing strategy? What's their revenue strategy? And here are some of the things that we did for this. So, what's their background, what are their Social Blade stats, how they grew over time, which of their videos did really well, which of their videos led to spikes in subscriber count, analyzing their content to figure out, okay, what are the general buckets of their content that they've got on YouTube? What do they do on Instagram? What do they do on Twitter? How does that work? What's good about this? Strategy analysis, like how did they start? What are they doing to grow now? What are the things that are going well for their channel? Are they search versus browse? Who's their target audience? What are their funnels? What platforms are they on? How do they use other platforms that they're on? How do they make money? Like all the different ways. What are they missing? How can we steal from them? What vibe should we absolutely avoid? All of this is right here in that template for you to do. And what you can do is, whatever your own thing is, you can click new on the competitor analysis template. And so when you hit that template button, you'll have the stuff pre-populated for you. And so you can do this competitor analysis for the somewhere between 10 and 20 competitors that are in your niche. So I'd really recommend you do this. This is going to give you so much information, and then it'll really tee you up for the next session, which is going to be all about how we find our competitive edge. What are the areas in which that we like, how do we carve that path in and stand out in this crowded market? So we've got a bunch of exercises for you to do in the worksheet kind of area down below. And thanks for watching. And hopefully I'll see you in the next lesson where we talk about the competitive edge. See you then.